Hi everyone. So last class we were talking about testing, how to do a unit test, how to use Salesforce testing feature, and Salesforce testing is available only for programming. Right? This is what we have discussed yesterday. So in case if you have a question like, do I have any testing for the Visual Force? Do I need to implement any testing for the Visual Force? No. Because in Visual Force, we were doing only design. So there is no testing. We need not to write a testing for the Visual Force. Then do I need to write any web testing for the within the Salesforce for Lightning Aura, Lightning component? Do I need to implement anything? No. At this moment, testing is not available. For your Visual Force framework, testing is not available. For your Lightning framework, testing is not available. Only testing classes we have to write for the core programming that we have implemented for the business purpose. What are the business requirement, business logic that we have implemented in the server side? So only for that we have to write the testing. So which is nothing but your Apex classes. So that's what we have been doing yesterday. But however, testing is always available in Lightning Web component also. There is some third-party tool. Using that third-party tool, we can move with the testing for LWC component. Okay, so when we have a LWC session, we will talk about that component for testing. Now, today, inside the testing, like yesterday, we understood how to write the test classes. And like before the class name, we have to use the annotation @istest, right? So @istest, I have to use it before the class. Before the class name or before the method name, we have to use it. In the method, either you can use @istest or you can write a test method, static test method, right? So inside that you can mention. So now today let's understand we have something called new, which is called as a test.starttest. Test.starttest, test.stoptest. So these are the two new things which we have to use it in the test classes. What are these? Test.starttest, test.stoptest. What are these? Why do we have to use it in the test classes? So by this now, you might be aware that whatever we implement in the Apex classes, everything is, for everything we have something called as a Gartner limits, right? Whatever we write in the Apex classes, everything is followed by the Gartner limits, right? So in the test classes, there are two additional system static methods provided by the Apex. So that is a test.starttest and test.stoptest. These are used when testing governor limits, or in other words, existing test scenarios with the largest data. Whenever we have some business logic which we are working on largest data. So when I say largest data, that means, for example, so what will happen? For example, you have written 100 lines of code. You have written 100 lines of code in the Apex class. Okay. So when I say Apex class, this is a actual business class. Let's assume that business class has 100 lines. Okay. So let's take it as a 200. And in the test class, you have written 100 lines to cover the logic. This is in the test class. So when you return the 100 lines in the test class, if you say test.starttest at the line number 30, and then you are going to stop the test.stoptest. You are going to stop it at 70. But you have a something 1 to 29, which is the before reach to 30th, and then 71 to 100. Okay, you have a other lines also. Your test class is overall, you have 100 lines. So inside that 100 lines, 30th line you started saying that start test. Saying that like start from now here and stop it at the 70. So what it going to do that? So that means the lines between the 30 to 70, the lines between the 13 to 70 is these are in different context of governor limits. These are different context of governor limits. And these 1 to 29, these two are 1 to 29 and 17 to 100 are in different context. Both will be in a different context. So there are two contexts will be created for this. So these static methods allows the test method to separate the apex resources and governor limits that being used to prepare and initialize the data set. Right? So the bottom line is governor limits, like we have everything for the governor limits. So by using the test.starttest and test.stoptest, governor limits are going to reset. So when the test.starttest appears, the code between the test.starttest and test.stoptest execute in a fresh set of governor limits. So is it clear why are we using this test.starttest and test.stoptest? Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's see one example. Okay, let's say there is a business scenario. Okay, there is a business requirement. What is the business requirement here? Whenever there is a no email address, then client wants to put the default address. Put the default address saying that no@email.com. Okay, and another one, whenever there is no phone, then client wants to put the 999. Right, this is a simple request. So that means when I say whenever, this is the on creation. Whenever the user is created, okay, during the creation of the record, if system finds there is no email entered by the user, then go ahead and put the default number or default email. And whenever the user is creating it, while creating, if they have not mentioned any phone number, then go ahead and put the default number called 99999. Right? So this is what we want the requirement. Okay. So for this, ideally we have to implement the trigger, right? So inside the trigger, we have to call the logic. So let me go ahead and do that. So what I'll do is I'll implement some simple apex class where that requirement is fulfilling it. file new apex class. Let's say that CL_1307. What are we doing here? Let's say we are implementing on the contact email phone default, right? So let's go ahead and put this now. So what I'll do is I'll create a separate methods. One is for phone update and another one is for email update. So public static void check phone. Okay. So what all information I need for inside this? I need contact information. List of contact. Let's say this is CL. Contact. Okay. So this is for checking the phone number. Same thing I'll create it for another method, which is check for email. This is check for email. So what are we doing it? Inside this, I'll look through the contact because I'm going to get the list of contact. I'm going to get the list of contact here. So contact C1, what is the data that I'm getting? Contact. Let's give it as yes. Okay, inside this. So I'll go and verify if con dot, what I'm going to check, phone number equal to null. If it is equal to null, then simply go ahead and update con dot phone equal to 5 nines. I'm going to put it. So same thing for email, but only the difference is what I'm going to check here is email. I'm going to check the email. Right? This is a simple request. So we created the class, right? So let's create a trigger also. File new apex trigger tr_1307 contact validation. Okay. So let's put S object as a contact. Submit. So what do we need to call? We need to call the two methods, check phone and check email. But what I'll do is I'll restrict at the record level, trigger level, because I do not want to execute this by default. Like I can write it here dot check phone, and inside that I can pass trigger dot new, right? Check email. So what will happen here? It is going to work perfectly fine, right? But I'll make it more complicated here at the trigger level, just to make sure that my trigger executes only the one that is needed. Only the one that is needed. That means before coming to the check phone, I wanted to cross verify. Before coming to this one, before coming to this method, first alert me if it equal to null, then only call this. Right? So what I'll do is I'll just change this so that it will be easy for my test classes which part is executing it. See, and trigger dot new. Perfect. Now if, so I'll take out this from here, if condition, if phone equal to null, then only call this. Perfect. We'll take out this as well. Right. Now I'll take out this. And then in case if my email equal to null, then call okay. This is just to show you that which all our methods are calling on the right time. So cn so we'll pass the cn instead of trigger.new. What is the error? Okay, so the problem is here we are sending the expectation of the method is list of contact, right? It is a list of contact, but here we are sending the single contact. So it should be trigger.new. So it is expecting the list. Okay, so let me go ahead and let's see manually first. Sales console. Contact. Let's create a new one. So let's say Mr. Rahul Dravid. Okay, I'll not enter any information. Let's click on a save. So data is changed by the trigger field email invalid address. Okay, so invalid email. What is the error? Invalid email. Oh, okay. No @email.com. Let's say. Okay, it should work now. Yeah. So here, where is the details? Okay. So here the email came, no @email.com, phone number is came 999. Now let me go ahead and implement the test class for this same thing. File new Apex class, the class name, and append with test. Perfect. Now let me make it as a private, because for this business case, I don't think so this class is used by anywhere. So istest. Okay. Whatever we have written the business scenario. So how many test cases could come for this? How many test cases can come? So the first test case is when phone is null. When phone is null, then I wanted to update the phone. And the next test test case is when phone is not null. When phone is not null. Just a second. Okay. So test 2 is when phone is not null. Same for email also. So which is a that is a test scenario, test case scenario is third, and this is the fourth one. And what are we checking? When email is null. And the other one is email is not null. Fine. And the next, what all scenarios can come up? The combination when email and phone both are null. And the next one is when email and phone both are not null. So these many scenarios we have to cover in test classes. Is there any other scenarios that can come up? Whatever the logic that we have written here. Anything which I forgot? Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the test case one. So when I did it manually, it worked fine. So which one I did manually? I did the test case scenario 5, where the email and phone number both are null. Right? So what I'll do is, so either you can write static test method void. This is a scenario 1. Right? So either you can write this or you can remove the test method and add @istest. Perfect. So that is the test method. This is the test method. Now, what all information I needed here in order to execute, in order to make sure that code coverage is good. The first thing is that I need to insert the contact, right? So contact SeeAllData new contact, right? C dot last name. What are the values are mandatory for me? New name is mandatory, last name is mandatory. So only the last name is mandatory. C dot last name equal to, let's say that this is a test 100. Okay. So I do not need any other information. Simply I'll say C, insert C. Right. So let me execute this just to see whether it is working or not. Okay. Execute. Any error while executing it? You do not see any error. Contacts all. Yeah, it created. So perfect. Only one mandatory information is required. Okay. So that should be good. We are good here. Now after inserting it, what I wanted is Just I wanted to capture get the information whatever we have inserted here. List of contacts equal to, I'll just take, because this is only the scenario is for phone. Select phone from contact. I'm querying which is going to get the data from database. C.id. Perfect, I got it. And what is the value it's supposed to be for the phone? What is the value it's supposed to be for the phone? So here phone is null. That means I do not want to execute the email part, right? I do not want to execute the email part. So what I'll do is I'll add the c.email equal to, I'll add test@gmail, so that it will execute only the phone method. Now next one is system.assert equals, what is the expected value? Expected value of phone is 9999. What is the actual value that is sits in the database? Contacts, the first record dot phone. Perfect. So what I'll do, we are writing a very small logic. So I'll put everything into the test.starttest and complete this here, test.stoptest. Perfect. Debug clear. Now go to the test. There is nothing is here. Let me click on run test. It executed fine and there is no error. Let's go to the Apex. How much it executed? It executed only this. And what is the percentage? 50%. What is the percentage? Overall percentage of the test classes is only 50%. The one which is in the blue color that got executed by the test class scenario. Scenario 1, right? This is did not touch. And if I go to the Apex classes, today's date, right? Okay, so this is the class CR. So here it is. There are 8 lines are there. Out of 8 lines, these 4 lines got executed and it is a 50%. Right? It is a 50% executed because the coverage that I am doing, the scenario that I have written when phone is null. Here I do not want to check any email condition. My first focus is to make sure that this method is covered by the test classes, which is a positive scenario as well as negative scenario. Right now we are checking the positive scenario. When phone is null, then update the 998. That is a positive scenario here. Now, when the phone is not null, what should happen? When the phone is not null. So this is again, let me copy this. This is a scenario 2. And here we have a c.phone equal to, let me add some value here, 22222, right? And what is the output? This is the output. Control S. Now this is also phone, this is also phone, but this is a valid, that is what expected here, because when equal to null, then it should execute this. But what will happen if phone has a value? So that is another scenario we are testing it. Now run test. It executed. How much percentage it is going to cover? It is going to cover only the 50%. Why? Because both the methods are talking about phone. They are not talking about email. And if you look at this, the scenario 2 is covering only this part because it did not go inside. The reason is we are already doing the phone already updated here. While inserting the contact, we are giving the phone number. So for the scenario 2, these two lines did not get executed. Whereas scenario 1, 50% got executed. So overall, it is showing me the 50%. Overall, it is showing me the 50%. So right now also only the covered part is this method. Okay, now let me go ahead and do it. Same thing for the email. So that it will be covered 100%. Let's copy this. Test scenario 3. And this is email equal to null. So I do not want the email. Let's update 3333. And what are we checking here? Email we are checking, right? So contact email. What should be the value when there is no value? No @email.com. Right? Now let me add the test scenario 4 as well. This is scenario 4. I'm giving the email details. I'll give the email details and what will be the expected one. This is the expected one and this is the actual. Perfect. Now let me save this. Run test. Now it is executed perfectly fine. Let's go to the class. Click on this coverage. Now it is 100%. Out of 100%, all methods which are like each one, what are the coverage it is done? Scenario 3. Scenario 3, it executed this and this, right? And scenario 2, it did not go to any of this. It went to check phone, but it did not execute this one. Scenario 1 completely covered the method 1. Scenario 4, nothing got executed, right? So overall, I have a 100%. Overall, I have a 100%. So we have to write like this, different scenarios we have to write. And one more thing, in case if you have so many methods in the test class, and you just wanted to check only one method, because every time it was giving an error in the method 4. Okay, let's say here, let me change this. It is not equal to none. Let's run it. So it is failing. And when I open this, it will open the class and it says that scenario 4 is failed. Now for debugging purpose, what I wanted to do is, I do not want to run these all. What are the test methods are there? I do not want to run. I'm just focused on this particular method, because this is giving me a lot of issue for me. Like it did not, whatever needs to be resolved, I did resolve, but still I'm facing some kind of a issue. So my focus is just to run this particular method. How can we run it? Test, new run. What is this class name? Contact, email, phone, default test. Right? Select this contact and it will give you all the methods. It will give you all the methods. So select the one which you wanted to execute. Okay. And here click on run. So what will happen? It will run only that particular method. Let me show you. Let me open the top one. So it is showing all scenario 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the last one, let me show you. How many are there? Only scenario 4 is there, because that is what I have run. Right? Now I'll change it. Now again I'll go to the debug test. Okay, new run. Now again I'll select the class and that particular method and click on run. Okay, it ran perfectly fine. But in case you are like you wanted to just run the whatever it is failed, so rerun the failed test. Whatever is failed, it is going to execute only that particular one. Previously it failed only the scenario 4. So the scenario 4, instead of you going to the new run, select this and select specific method and do this. First time you do this, if it is failed, next time onwards, what you can do is rerun the failed tests. And when you say rerun, it will rerun the class, all of this. Here, in case if your test class is taking a lot of time, that is getting executed back and it is keep on showing. So what you can do is you can abort it. And in case if you wanted, there is a lot of test data here. So if you wanted to clear, okay, clear the test data. So whatever the data that is created by the test classes, if you wanted to clear that, test, clear test data, clearing the test data, it is going to clear all of them. The data that is created, insert a contact, insert this one, everything. Now again, rerun. Okay, all good. So clear all these options. Okay. Now coming to the next one. Okay. Coming to the next one is, let's say for example here, scenario 1, I'm creating the contact. Scenario 2, I'm creating the contact. Scenario 3, I'm creating the contact. Scenario 4 also I'm creating the contact. So this, whatever the logic is there, it is keep on repeating, right? Every time I have to go ahead and I have to insert this. I have to initialize this. But instead of doing this every time creating the contact, not only this class, maybe in future, whenever you are writing another Apex class, which has a single business scenario related to contact. So in that test class also you have to create this, right? So that's the reason in the real time, what they will do is they will create a common tracker or test tracker. How to create it? New Apex class. Let's say that this is a common tracker. Common tracker is basically all the initializations will be there. Let's click on this. Okay, this has to be public. This has to be public. And for what business reason we created this? Whatever we have a repeated steps here, initializations are repeated steps, right? So just take out this initialization and put it in some generic class so that whoever wants, they can use it. So this common tracker has to be a test class, istest. Okay, this common tracker is istest and it has to be public. Why it is public? Because this test class is going to call by multiple test classes. Let me show you that. Now inside this public static, let's say right now we are creating the contact, create contact, right? Perfect. Now whatever this has a logic, I'll take out from here. What I'll do, I'll put it here. Insert this and also return the whoever is calling this method, return C. Return C. Whoever is calling this, return C. Okay. So in that case, we have to use the public. Now, I took out that generic logic and I kept it here. Now what I can do is I can take out this. This is what it was there. So now what can I do? Contact C equal to, I can simply call common tracker dot create contact. That's it. So this test class is, it's a initialization class, or all the initializations will be here. Like a public static create a contact, and there will be another method which is a create account, and another method create a opportunity, right? This class is only for initializing the or creating the records. Could be a one record, could be a multiple records. I can create a multiple records and return the values to the here. So as this is a common tracker, and this could be used by anybody in a sense, any test classes. In the scenario, we have to use the public. But if you have any, like you are implementing a test class only for this business requirement, and you know that this test class is no need to call this test class is nobody is going to call this one, then you can put private. But if you are implementing some class for generic purpose, you are implementing a testing class for generic purpose that anybody can call this test class. Why anybody can call this? Because this test class purpose is creating the records. Creating the records. Right? So this is for creating the records. So that's the reason anybody can call this. Right? So in those scenario, we have to use the public. Now, instead of writing all of this, what I can do is I can simply call that okay, I simply call this is a scenario 2, phone is not equal to null. Phone is not equal to null. Okay. So right now what I did, I simply call that. So this will going to take care of inserting the records. Fine. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? Okay. This is a common tracker. Okay. The tracker is used here. Clear when to use the public, when to use the private. Okay. Now there is something called, we have another annotation which is called, apart from the istest. We are just using the istest, right? Before the class name, we are using the @istest annotation. Okay. There is something which we have is @istest SeeAllData. SeeAllData equal to true. Equal to true. SeeAllData equal to true. So what is this means? What is the SeeAllData true means? Whenever we write a SeeAllData true means it will open up the data access to the records in organization. That means in the organization. So whatever I create a record in here, okay, if I wanted to pull any of this record, if I wanted to pull any of the account records, let's say that there is a essential is there. Okay, if I wanted to pull this data in the test class, okay, on top of it, I wanted to create another record. Okay, but remember one thing, whenever we use the SeeAllData, So whenever we use the SeeAllData, this applies only to query the data. Query the data. It does not apply to record creation or changes or deletion. It does not do anything. Just query it. That's it. Just getting the record from getting the data from Salesforce database is available if I use the SeeAllData. I cannot modify, I cannot change, I cannot delete that record. Nothing will happen. Okay. So let's see one example. Let me create one. Perfect. So file, new Apex class. So what we use, let's create a class. This is the test data access class. Let's use this. Or let's say CL_1307 account test. Okay, perfect. Is shouting. Okay, so let's create a new one. CL1307 account test. Okay, this is what is this? Let's go ahead and create it. Istest. What we have to do, if we wanted to make it as a test class, @istest, and along with that, what I'm going to do is I'm using the SeeAllData. Okay, use it exactly capital A and capital D, capital S equal to true. Okay, let's save this. And for this, it has to be public. For this, access modifier has to be public. So let's go ahead and implement the static test method void. Let's say that get account test. Okay. So inside this, ideally what we will do, we will create a record. Like this, we will create a record. Or I'll call the common tracker where all the initializations are there. Right? But instead of creating a record in test class, what I can do is account A equal to select ID comma name from account, where the name equal to, I have some record here. Let me go there. Essential is there. Okay, so let's put limit 1. Perfect. Right. So what I'll do, I'll simply print system dot. I'll check the assert here. Assert, what is the condition? Assert condition will be A not equal to none. So that means I should be able to get the record from the database. I should be able to get the record from the table. So what it is doing this one, this is querying an existing account from the Salesforce database. From the Salesforce database, or you can call from your organization. From your organization, either one. I'm getting it from the database and just checking. Assert is basically I have to put a condition here. So my condition is this should have some value. So that means this should not be enough. Right? So let me execute this and see. Debug, clear logs, run test, add test method. what happened? Let's say run test. Perfect, it is executed. And is my testing is yes, it is executed. There is no error, right? So that means this condition is satisfied. I got the data from Salesforce. I got the data from Salesforce. If you wanted to see what is the ID, you got it. System.debug ID. Control S. Let's run it again so that it will print the ID. So this is my ID. Is this ID exist in the system? The one which I was looking at account. AM. So that is the same one, right? If I hit enter. See, it pulled from the database, right? So that means when I give the SeeAllData, it will enable the test class to pull the records from the Salesforce database. And using this ID, I can create a new one. Account, new account, equal to using the same data a dot clone. Let me use the a dot clone. So clone, what it will do exactly, it will clone. Exactly, it will clone from the existing one. The only thing I wanted to change is just to differentiate dot name equal to essential one. And let's go ahead and insert. Perfect. What I'm doing, I'm taking all the information from the account. Okay. And just I'm changing the name. I'm cloning the existing one and creating the new one. So that means this is what we are doing it here. Creating a new test account. This is a new test account based on the one which we queried ago. Right? And once we insert, let me go ahead and get the information. Test account 2. So select ID comma name from account, where name equal to essential one. Let's keep limit 1. Fine. Now let me go ahead and print system dot. Let's use the condition. Condition will be my test account 2 not equal to none. So that means I should be getting the information. And what I'll do, I'll put everything in the started from here, test.starttest and test.stoptest. And system.assert always has to be inside the test.starttest and test.stoptest. Control X. Now let's go ahead and run again. Perfect. Let me close this. Run test. Is my test class perfect? Yes. So, and did it create a Accenture too in the org accounts? All account? No, it did not create it. Let me sort out with the account name. Right? It did not create it because that is the test data that we are creating inside the test. Is it clear? See all data equal to true. Any questions on this?
Hello.
Yep.
Yeah, I have one question. Like, see all. Will you please explain once again for see all data? Like,
Okay. So
yeah.
see all data means it is going to open up the it is going to open up the data access to the records in organization. Okay. Sometimes there are external objects. When I say external objects is which is related to the third party. Okay. Sometimes what will happen is we cannot create it. Okay. Instead of creating a record in the test method, what we used to do whenever we write a test class, we used to initialize contact C equal to new contact and what are the mandatory information are there, used to enter that insert C. Now I do not want to do this. I simply wanted to query the one which is already exist in the database in the test class. So if I wanted to do that, if my business scenario or in order to fulfill the test coverage, I just wanted to query the data from database or organization. In that case, we have to use a SeeAllData equal to.
Okay. But thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? But you cannot delete or you cannot change anything on top of that data. In case if you wanted to do, you have to clone that exactly and you have to make a changes. And there are some key points whenever we are writing. While writing a test classes. The first one is always start the class with @istest annotation. Always start the class with @istest. That means before the class name, you have to mention @istest. Then only system is going to or Salesforce is going to identify this is a test class. And the next one is if you are implementing a test class only for your class, only for your Apex class, and you know that this test class is nobody is calling, you know that this test class is nobody is calling, then always use the private. But in case if somebody is calling it, then use the public. Somebody is calling means this public, whatever the logic is there, it has to be generic logic that can be used by the another test class. Right? And the next one, whenever you are creating the new test class, whenever you are creating the new test class, always use your class name and concatenate with test. Concatenate with test. So your class name, whatever the actual class name is there, the class name so that it will be easy in future after 3 months or after 6 months. If you wanted to work on a test classes, it is easy for, if you know the class name, you can identify the test class. Okay, and the next one is prepare your test data. Before writing the test class, make sure what logic needs to be covered. Identify the logic that needs to be covered for that particular class, both positive and negative. Identify both the scenarios before you start writing it up. Right? And in case in the test class, if you want, for example, okay, you have a test class, okay, and in that test class, only that particular class is required, a different object creation is required, no other test classes is required. What does that mean is, let me go to, yes, okay, we have this test class, okay. Assume that I do not have a common tracker. I do not have a common tracker. Okay. So inside this test class is written some 200 lines or 250 lines or some 300, more than 300 lines. The lines are there in this test class. Okay. And all of the methods are needed some data. Creation of data. That means it has to create this entire test class is required: account, contact, opportunity, task, product, and some custom object. Okay, this all data is required for every method that is exist in this class. So what you can do is you can create a separate method which is called as a @test setup. @test setup, and you can create all whatever is needed for entire class. Wherever you want, you can just need to query that and get the information. Test setup is basically where you can initialize or create all the records for that object. So in case if you do not have a common tracker, or if your business requirement something different, and where you have to initialize here only, where you have to create a records within the class, within this test class. But every method creating 6 records: account record, contact record, opportunity record, task, product, custom object. It will be like it is going to take 40 lines of code. And every method writing the 40 lines of code, put the common code here in the test setup. And inside this, you need not to again create a record, no need to initialize it, or no need to create it again inside the test methods. You can just query it based on this account ID. Okay, so that is the test setup. @test setup. And the next one is always use, whenever we are writing the test class, always has to be the whatever the logic that is going to call the apex class, or what are the logic that is important in the test class, put in between the test.start and test.stop. The logic always has to be between the test.starttest and test.stoptest. 7. System.assert or system.assert equals to. or system.assert not equals. This is good to put the information between the test.starttest and test.stoptest. By this, we will know that what is the actual value and what is the expected value. So based on my scenario, whether it is a positive scenario or negative scenario, does it keep the expected one same as actual one? Or put a condition. So always use the system.assert or assert equal or assert not equal. And make sure that your next one is your actual business class is covered minimum 75% or above 75%. The last one is if you have a multiple methods like a check phone, check email, okay. For each method, create a separate method in the test class where it should call only that particular method. Okay, do not combine this. Always create a test method for each method. Each business class method should be covered by each test method. Clear? Any points that somebody doesn't agree or they wanted to correct it?
Yeah, I have one question regarding like at the rate test setup. Uh, like in at the rate test setup, suppose all the method are using the you told me like all the method are using the same data.
Let me show you
Okay.
the one example. At the
Uh,
rate test method, let's see that.
yeah, I understand. But there is one question like suppose I created a data in test setup,
Mhm,
and in one method, suppose some contact field is updated,
mhm.
some related contact field is updated, and in other method we are using that contact field. So
Okay.
we will get the updated value, or we will get the the value which we set in test at the rate test setup.
Okay. Where are you updating it? You are updating in the
Like
test setup.
suppose in no, we are updating in some method, like
Okay.
there is multiple method. So
Okay.
suppose in one m1 method we are updating some contact field,
Okay.
the related account contact field we are updating. So
Mhm.
in second method we are using that contact as well. So we will get that updated parameter we will get in second method. It's updated one, or the at the rate setup one.
Let's see that. Okay. Let's create it. My developer console. Just a second. Okay. This is my developer console. So your question is if we updated whether we could able to do it or not. Perfect. So let's go ahead and use the existing one. Okay, let's use this one. Okay, let's take the existing one. Perfect. So at the rate test setup, let's give static void. Let's give the name as setup. Okay, so let's assume that I'm inserting this contact. I'm inserting this contact. Fine. Now what I'll do, I'll simply query the record. Let's check out this. Take out the records and I'll use the last name equal to Okay. Now let's take out this. Okay. Now let me go ahead and update the contacts. First record 0 dot. This is the phone number. Let me give the phone number here. C dot phone equal to 22222. Let's close it. And now I'll update the phone number equal to 888. Okay, let's close this. Perfect. Let me comment out everything from here till the end. So I do not need this data. What are we doing? Test setup, creating the record, and same record I'm querying here. And I'm updating the 888. So what will be the my assert equal to actual value is 888. Right? I did not do the update. Update contact 0. Perfect. So this is done. Now let me copy the same thing. Let's use the another scenario. Let's see that scenario 1, 2. Now I'll query this. I do not want all of this. Okay. So let me print here system dot debug contact dot phone number. Updated phone. Let's save this. Perfect. It's not saving. Debug clear. Run test. Any error? No error. Test class. Perfectly fine. It executed. Now what is the updated phone number? Is it updated phone number or is it giving the previous one? It is giving the previous one. So where is it? So whatever we update in the test method, it doesn't take only the one that is there. So this is the final values. Is that clear?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that's all. So we were discussing about the some key points. What are the key points? Okay. So each business class will be the each test method. And this test method will have a positive and negative scenario. In assignment, so in previous classes, I have given the some assignments, right? Create a test class, create a test classes for all the one that we created. Right? So everyone create that. Coming to the real time, interview. Why do we need test classes? How much percentage does it require? How much percentage does it require if we have to move the class to production. What are the different annotations while writing the test class? What are the different annotation do we have in test class? What are the different annotations do we have in test class? Write a sample test class program. How do you capture custom setting data in test class? Okay, this you have to practice it. So whatever I have explained so far, try with that. In case if you do not get, let me know. And moving on, bit more difficult, they will ask, they say that there are 4 test classes. Okay. One has 75%, second one has 80%, okay. Third one has 100%, fourth one has 50%. So in this scenario, does system will allow the changes pushed into production, or the calculation will happen? Does it take overall percentage, like 75 plus 80 plus 100 plus 50, what are the based on the by 4 classes, what are the coverages that does it calculate it, or individual class percentage does it take it? So research on that. Okay, so there is no real time here. That's the one which we have discussed about the business requirement. And coming to the trial head, we have some trial head. Trial head. Getting started. Apex test. Yeah. Okay. So this one is Apex testing is the one. This is one module, and we have a trial mixes. Okay. So there are 2 trial mixes are there. So let me bring you this information. One is module. This is a module, and this is trial mix. And this is another trial mix. Right. So these three are the one. Try to practice it. So whoever the new members are there, so please practice it. Okay. Any other questions before I log out? Okay then. Yeah. Thank you so much. Bye.